Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, we can just see your chest, Prabhuji. We can't see your face.
You can't see my face? I can see my face. How is that?
I can see your face.
I can see my own face on there.
We can see you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Can you see me, Lavanga?
Yeah, I can see you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We are able to see. We are able to see.
There's my water. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
It's very hot in London today. Feels like Kenya.
Yes.
Okay, everybody ready? My apologies.
Can I introduce? Can I introduce you, because I knew you 20 years ago.
Please do.
Yeah, I knew His Grace Gopa Kumar Das Prabhuji. If I'm not wrong, 1997. He used to be like very young. Now I can see he's
very old.
He's changed. And I can only say that Prabhuji, he was very much into drama. I remember him because he used to act as Narada Muni in that famous drama entitled Mugrari the Hunter. And only one quality I can remember about him is that he was very well behaved, in the sense that I've never seen him angry even one day. I don't know whether he hides himself in a place when he's just alone, when he's angry, or he never ever becomes angry. So that's one very good quality I know about him, that he's always jolly. And and when we were together, 97, I think, 98, 99, up to 2001, his behavior was exemplary. And what I know is he used to like doing drama, and he had that particular part of acting as Narada Muni. And I don't know whether you can remember. So I think
I can.
He will also come back to Africa, in Kenya in particular, and teach us many things, especially doing drama. And I'm not sure whether you can remember, we used to do drama in the streets also. They were called skits, and it was very good memories. I can remember that. So the only, I used to call him Bhatanil, but that is gone now. Is His Grace Gopa Kumar Das. And funny enough, since 20 years ago, I've never seen him again. Krishna is wonderful. I'm seeing him today again. Yeah. And last but not least is that Prabhuji, we are having a project at Eldoret. Unfortunately, His Grace Tribhuvannath Prabhu never visited Eldoret. It's not far from Kisumu. And if you can remember Nakuru, from Nakuru, when you are heading to Kisumu, you divert on your right and you go to Eldoret. Very cool place, very nice place. Actually, it's one of the best places in Kenya. So Prabhuji, is my humble request that we want to build a temple there. So if you can organize, with your wonderful, well-behaved personality you are, if you can arrange that, we can have some collection of some Lakshmi. We want to build a temple there. So if you can help us in collecting, that would be amazing. For more information, you can get it from Kirti Kamataji, our host. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So you just got me here just to ask for a donation. Is that what it was?
No, Prabhuji. We want ideas. We are just 2 years old. Our center is very young. And Lavanga Prabhuji said, let's ask him for ideas. So I said, yeah, why not? And before I introduced myself to you, we didn't even know that you and Lavanga Prabhuji had a connection. So This is between you and him. Okay, Prabhuji. Let's start. Prabhuji, we are in Eldoret and we are a very small center. And during lockdown from May 1st, we started reading one text a day on Zoom. And we have continued that till today. We haven't stopped even for a day. And we meet at the same time, same link every day. And we are a group, we are not big in quantity, but I think there are some very good devotees and I'm learning so much from this group. Prabhuji, we are right now on chapter 12 of the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and the chapter 12 is called Devotional Service. And today we are on text 5, Prabhuji. So we've done the Mangalacharan and we read the text, Prabhuji, as we were waiting for you.
I've already read it.
Strictly go on for an hour and a little more. So without much ado, I'll hand over to you, Prabhuji. Our mentors at the center are Path Prabhuji. As you see, Path Prabhuji, can you just wave so that Prabhuji can see?
Hare Krishna,
And
Prabhuji.
Mansi Ganga Mataji, who might join in later on.
Yes,
So
Prabhuji. Thank
they
you
are
very much
our
for your
inspiration and they are the backbone of the center. You can also see in the background ISKCON Eldoret, there are few devotees, very committed devotees at the center. Probably they are doing all the work and we are enjoying the darshan of Radha Shyam Sundaram.
Right. So, Partha Prema Prabhu, yeah?
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Please accept our humble obeisances on the behalf of all the devotees, especially in ISKCON Eldoret. We welcome you. It is our good fortune. By grace of Lavanga Prabhu, we met a spiritual advanced devotee and a senior devotee. It is our good fortune. We are so blessed, and it is so thanks for us because you are giving the time. Yes, Prabhuji. Like Kirti Mataji, our host, and last 1.5 years, we started this Zoom program when the continuous program is stopped. But it is very effective. Every day, at least, we are doing one shloka and different speaker in the different cities, different part of the world. They are joined and they guide us. Today, we are so fortunate. It is incredible for us. Like a great speaker from Manor, Bhaktivedanta Manor, he is with us. Thank you, Prabhuji. Over to you.
Okay. Well, you'll find out at the end whether you were fortunate or not. But I'll do my best. But can everybody introduce themselves first? I see Sashwin, is it? Sashwin Prabhu? And who's this young man?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Which one is Sashwin? Is it the senior?
Is Sashwin?
Yeah. Sashwin. What's your name, sir?
Yeah, my name is Kumar Prabhuji.
Kumar.
So I'm in Eldoret, Prabhuji.
You're in Eldoret also?
Yes.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Yes, actually, basically, I am from India. So actually, I am working for one company, textile company.
Yes.
So we based in Eldoret, Kenya.
So how long have you been there?
Prabhuji, about 20 years.
Oh, you've been in Eldoret for 20 years?
No, yes.
Okay, a long time.
Actually, Kenya, 20 years. Actually, I'm in various places in Kenya. Eldoret about now 9 years, Prabhuji.
Years.
Thank you.
Sashwin is at school?
He's standard 1. He's 7-year-old.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Shashwin leads us. He recites the Mangalacharan and he reads the text for us every day. He's our inspiration. He's our engine. We are just the bogies behind.
Okay, cool. And I can see 4 gentlemen there. I don't know their names.
ISKCON Eldoret, George Prabhuji. Can you please introduce yourself? ISKCON Eldoret. You'll have to unmute, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you'll have to unmute.
Yes. Hare Krishna. My name is David.
ISKCON Eldoret, you'll have to unmute.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I am David. I'm I am an aspiring devotee based in ISKCON Eldoret Center.
Okay. Hare Krishna, David. Who else?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I am George. Also, I am aspiring devotee from ISKCON.
George.
Yes,
Is that George, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So we got David and George.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I'm Ezekiel from Nairobi, but currently I'm in.
Ezekiel,
Yes.
you're from Nairobi.
Yes.
Is that right? And one more gentleman there.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I'm living
Come closer to the laptop.
So I didn't catch your name. You got George, David, Ezekiel,
Linus.
and still not catching it.
Linus.
I didn't get it.
Linus from Eldoret.
Say your name again.
Linus.
Dean.
Linus.
Ah, okay. Hare Krishna. All right. So did you say, you said that you've already done Mangalacharana, you've already read the verse? You already read the also? Have you
Yes,
already read?
Prabhuji, we have done the Mangalacharan, but we haven't read the purport. It's a long purport today.
Yeah.
So
But you've read the
that's
shloka?
why we wanted to hand over to you.
Okay.
Usually we read the purport, but you can guide us. We can read for you little bits and you can play however you want to do, Prabhuji.
Okay, but you read the verse, yeah? Is that what you said? You read the verse already? The shloka itself. You've already read.
Yes.
Yes? Hello?
Yes,
Yes.
Prabhuji,
Anybody
we
here?
have read the shloka. So
Already done. Yeah?
we can read it again if you want, Prabhuji. Then you
Alright,
can
you've already-
Shashwin. Shashwin,
Okay.
can you read the shloka again for us? Hare Krishna. I think my internet is it's getting heated up. In London, it's very hot. Shashwin, can you read the shloka, text 5, please? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Kleshodipatarashesham avyakta shaktachetasam avyakta hi gatirdutam avadbir avapyate. Hare Krishna.
So, for those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. So, shall I read? Do you want to take turns reading some sections of the purport and go around? Is that how we
Yes,
normally do it?
Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji will do that.
All right. So I'll read a little bit and then somebody else can read it.
Okay, Prabhuji.
The group of transcendentalists who follow the path of the inconceivable, unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord are called Jnana Yogis. And persons who are in full Krishna consciousness, engaged in devotional service to the Lord, are called Bhakti Yogis. Now, here the difference between Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga is definitely expressed. The process of Jnana Yoga, although ultimately bringing one to the same goal, is very troublesome. Whereas the path of Bhakti Yoga, the process of being in direct service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is easier and is natural for the embodied soul. The individual soul is embodied since time immemorial. It is very difficult for him to simply theoretically understand that he is not the body. Therefore, the Bhakti Yogi accepts the deity of Krishna as worshipable because there is some bodily conception fixed in the mind which can thus be applied. Of course, worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his form within the temple is not idol worship. There is evidence in the Vedic literature that worship may be sagun and nirgun, of the Supreme possessing or not possessing attributes. Worship of the deity in the temple is sagun worship. The Lord is represented by material qualities. But the form of the Lord, though represented by material qualities such as stone, wood, or oil paint, is not actually material. That is the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord. So even in that one part, first paragraph of the purport, there's a lot of very interesting things Prabhupada is saying. Obviously, it's discussing the difference between Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. But the first thing that really catches my mind there is when Prabhupada says that they ultimately lead to the same goal, right? So the two paths lead to the same goal. You can follow the path of Jnana Yoga and you will ultimately reach the same goal as by practicing Bhakti Yoga. But Krishna is saying that the path of Jnana Yoga is troublesome. It's more difficult, it's more hard work. And Prabhupada is explaining that the reason why it's more hard work is because it's not natural for the soul. So we are embodied souls. We are souls inside material bodies. So we have a bodily conception. When we look in the mirror, we see this thing and we think of that as being ourself, right? We think that's me. You look in the mirror and you think, you know, when you wake up in the morning, you think, God, I look terrible today. I'm getting old, right? My hair's going gray, all that stuff, right? Lavanga. And all that kind of thing. We identify with this, right? This thing. So this is the bodily conception of life, right? We identify ourselves as being this body. So because of that, it's very difficult for us to conceive of an unmanifested absolute truth, right? You can't, it's not conceivable within the mind, right? You can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't feel it, you can't interact with it in any way, right? The only way, let's say within the Vedas, that you can interact with this kind of impersonal conception of God is through mantra, right? So you might chant Omkar, right? You might sit and chant Om, and you can interact through sound with that absolute, but there's no other way of engaging your senses in that absolute truth. This requires negation of the senses. So to negate the senses is much more difficult than to engage the senses. So this is Prabhupada's whole point, right? The whole point of Krishna consciousness is that you engage senses in Krishna's service. So what we're doing right now, right? We're reading a book. It's a physical book. There's some engagement. There's engagement for the mind. There's engagement for the intelligence, right? You can play music. Music is engagement, again, for the ears, for the tongue, right? You can take prasadam, right? But the whole process of worshipping the deity, Prabhupada is discussing here, is engaging the senses. So you're engaging in direct service of that same absolute truth, but you're using your body, you're using your mind, you're using your intelligence to actually directly serve the Supreme. So that same Supreme can be realized by yogis in the Himalayas, by jnanis, sannyasis, who negate the senses and don't interact with the world at all. But that path is very difficult. You have to be, well, one in very, very many millions of people who can follow a path like that. But Krishna consciousness is a path which can be taken up, as Prabhupada says, even a child can take part, right? So anyone can practice Krishna consciousness. So that's the most important point that Prabhupada is making here, is that Krishna consciousness is a practical process that anyone can engage in. Anyone can chant, anyone can read, anyone can worship the deity, anyone can offer, even if you only have a picture of Krishna, you can offer some fruit, some water, anyone can do that. Even the most poor person can offer a little bit of water to a picture of Krishna, right? And then you're directly interacting with Brahman, which is a process that might take a yogi or a jnani hundreds of years. So this is what strikes me in that first part of the purport. If somebody wants to carry on with the reading, the second paragraph. Maybe
Hare
Lavanga
Krishna.
Prabhu.
Lavanga
Anybody?
Prabhuji.
Mataji, you want to read?
Yes.
Anybody? Someone? Lavanga,
can
you
you-
read the next
Let
section.
Lavanga Prabhuji read, I'll read
Yes.
next.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. A crude example may be given here. We may find some mailboxes on the street. And if we post our letters in those boxes, they will naturally go to their destination without difficulty. But any old box or an imitation which we may find somewhere, but which is not authorized by the post office, will not do the work. Similarly, God has an authorized representation in the deity form, which is called Achavigraha. This Achavigraha is an incarnation of the Supreme Person, is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. God will accept his service through that form. The Lord is omnipotent, all-powerful. Therefore, by his incarnation as Achavigraha, he can accept the services of the devotee just to make it convenient for the man in conditioned life. Hare Krishna.
You. So, Tika Mataji. There you go.
So, Hare Krishna. So for a devotee, there is no difficulty in approaching the Supreme immediately and directly. But for those who are following the impersonal way to spiritual realization, the path is difficult. They have to understand the unmanifested representation of the Supreme through such Vedic literatures as the Upanishads, and they have to learn the language, understand the non-perception feelings, and realize all these processes. This is not very easy for a common man. A person in Krishna consciousness, engaged in devotional service, simply by the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, simply by offering regulatory obeisances unto the deity, simply by hearing the glories of the Lord, and simply by eating the remnants of the foodstuff offered to the Lord, realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. There is no doubt that the impersonalists are unnecessarily taking a troublesome path with the risk of not realizing the absolute truth at the ultimate end. But the personalist, without any risk, trouble, or difficulty, approaches the Supreme Personality directly. A similar passage appears in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is stated that if one ultimate has to surrender onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this surrendering process is called bhakti, but instead takes the trouble to understand what is Brahman and what is not Brahman and spend his whole life in that way, the result is simply troublesome. Therefore, it is advised here that one should not take up this troublesome path of self-realization because there is uncertainty in the ultimate result Hare
Right, thank you.
Krishna.
So I just wanted to, I was just thinking then. So yeah, Prabhupada was describing that the impersonal path is very troublesome, and that if somebody can take to the personal path, or speaking specifically in these two paragraphs, Prabhupada speaking more about deity worship, right? Worship of the Archa Vigraha, says it's the incarnation. So the deity is actually the incarnation of Krishna. He's there to be served. Krishna understands that we don't have spiritual senses, obviously. So he manifests himself in the form of the deity so that he can accept service from us, right? That's the whole purpose of the deity. So it's actually a very profound thing that someone can directly engage in the service of God using all the mind and senses, using, worshipping that form, the Archa form. So it's a very profound thing. But it's interesting also that Prabhupada says here that the person on the impersonal path, they may run the risk of not realizing the ultimate goal in the end. But he says that a personalist, I'm just trying to find them, a personalist without any risk, trouble, or difficulty approaches the Supreme Personality directly. And I was just thinking about Tribhuvanath there, when you're Tribhuvanath Prabhu. I don't know, did anybody meet Tribhuvanath Prabhu apart from Lavanga? No. So, although Prabhupada is saying there that a personalist can, without difficulty, approach the Supreme, but Tribhuvanath, he certainly took a lot of difficulty on himself, like Prabhupada himself, right? So, Srila Prabhupada took on a lot of difficulty. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati took on a lot of difficulty, right? Caste Brahmins in India tried to kill Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Several times he had to escape from caste Brahmins who were actually trying to murder him because he was preaching that, non-Brahmins can receive the sacred thread, they can become sannyasis, right? So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, his preaching was very revolutionary. And it went against what the caste Brahmins had been teaching in India for the generations. So he took difficulty upon himself, and Prabhupada obviously also took on difficulties. Getting on a boat at the age of 69 years, arriving in New York, in a foreign country, in a foreign city at the age of 70. He'd never experienced the winter, he'd never seen snow before. He didn't know anybody, he was wandering around the city, so much difficulty. Eventually he sat down in the park, Tompkins Square Park, just with the cartels, just chanting under a tree, right? And from that, the Hare Krishna movement is born, right? So Prabhupada took on a lot of difficulty. And you find that especially the devotees who had a lot of direct association with Srila Prabhupada, they also took on that spirit of performing a lot of difficulties, taking risks for Prabhupada, taking risks for Krishna, right? So our Tribhuvanath, he used to take a lot of risks. We used to do festivals in places, right? We used to do festivals in places where people would tell, like the Indian community would say, "Oh, you can't go there. Don't go to this place. This is very dangerous." Like some place in Nairobi. Where is it, Lavanga? This Dandora, was it not Dandora? What's the place?
Yeah, it was Dandora, and they threw stones, and Tribhuvanath had already, made quite big arrangement. I think it was like today's money, it could be like 500,000, and everyone had to run away and leave everything there except me. I stayed there actually.
You stayed there. Was Dandora? There was another place.
That was Dandora.
I forget. We were on a rubbish dump. What was that place? We were almost on a rubbish heap.
Yeah, that was the place. Dandora.
That's Dandora, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the Indian community in Nairobi, they were saying is, you can't go there. This is very dangerous. Don't go there. It's too risky. But we went and we did the festival, right? So there was a lot of risk involved, or some risk anyway. We had a few accidents here and there, right? there was some danger. Some of the devotees got malaria. You know, there were a few incidents.
You also.
Yeah.
You also got malaria, I remember.
Yeah, I got malaria like 3 times. But but you know, we got stoned. People were throwing stones at us. Right? In Malawi also, they were throwing stones at us.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Who's that?
Sadhana here, Pralad's mom. There was one time we went to Kibera.
Kibera.
Kibera, yeah.
Where is that? Remind me.
On the other side, after we went to Aga Khan and then we went to Kibera with the festival.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to a lot of places.
Kibera is the largest Islam in Kenya.
Yeah, Kibera, yeah. Yeah, that's around Nairobi?
Yes, it's not far from the city.
Right.
Food.
Yeah, okay.
And also do the festival.
Yeah. So I'm just making the point that there's a lot of risk involved. So although Prabhupada's saying here, it's quite interesting that a personalist, let me find the direct quote. Yeah, so for example, he says, simply by offering remnants of foodstuffs, you can realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. It says the personalist, without any risk, trouble, or difficulty, approaches the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly, right? So obviously that is true. You can approach the Supreme Person easily by, for example, offering food, etc. But this being the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there's actually a need to take risks for Krishna, right? There's a need to actually, especially when you're young, right, to go out there and take risks for Krishna, to do something, as Prabhupada say, do something wonderful for Krishna, do something big. Right, so Prabhupada very much took on that spirit of trying to do something very big. Some of the festivals that he used to organize were very big. Some of those festivals in Kenya, and like in Malawi also, we did some festivals in a kind of football stadium down there, about 10,000 people. So some of the festivals were very big, and it didn't always work. Sometimes it went wrong. Sometimes people threw stones at us, but still, you know, they heard the holy name. A lot of people got prasadam. Lavanga was always there serving prasadam, right? Plastic bags with rice and beans in a plastic bag, giving out to people from the back of a flatbed truck, right? So, you know, thousands of plates of prasadam, or bags of prasadam actually. You know, lectures, Bhagavad Gita lectures, you know, books distributed, harinams, you know, it all went on. So it's all very powerful, you know. This is like powerful Sankirtan. So if somebody is willing to take risks, obviously to practice Krishna consciousness at home is very glorious. If you have a deity in your house, or if you go to the temple and you worship the deity, this is very glorious, but this is for your own upliftment, right? This is for your own benefit. This is something that you do to elevate yourself and, you know, maybe your family, or maybe the few people who come to the temple for a darshan arti. But in order to actually really take it further, you have to take the risk of going out. Even just to go on Harinam, it can be a risk, right? You never know who's out there. There may be people who don't like it, maybe people from you know, other faiths who object to what you're doing. So there can be risks, but you know, it requires taking a risk to really, you know, to please Krishna and make that, what you say, like rapid spiritual advancement. As Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati would say, you know, don't try to see God. Act in such a way that God will want to see you. So if you take risks to try and please Krishna, then Krishna will be looking at you. You won't be there trying to, you know, pray, oh, please, you know, Krishna, hear my prayers, something like that. Krishna is right there. Krishna is right there with you. So back to Vinod Thakur would say, if you do Harinam in a place where Harinam has never been done before, then I will be there, right? So if you can find a village, a town, I'm sure it couldn't be that difficult, somewhere in Kenya where there's never been a Harinam, and you go out and do Harinam there, then Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself will be with you. Right? He'll be there on Harinam with you. So, you know, I think it would be nice to go on Harinam with Bhaktivinoda Thakur, right?
Yes, Jay.
So if you can find a town, just look on the map, find a town or a village where there's never been a Harinam, and just go and do one. And then
We
you'll
have lots of those places in
yeah,
India.
right? There's lots of places where it's never been done. I do always tend to think that like the missionary work, right? The missionary work was in the past. You know, the Prabhupada disciples, they did all the missionary work, all the swamis, you know, they've traveled everywhere, but it's not true actually. There's, as you say, there are many, many places which they've never heard the holy name of Krishna, never seen devotees, never had prasadam. There's people, you know, well, billions of people really, who have never come in contact with Krishna consciousness, right? So, you know, yeah, just pick one, maybe do like 1 day a week from Eldoret, for example. You could just pick a town that's like in the vicinity, a small village, or just go out as a little group and just do Harinam up and down. And then, you know, take a little risk for Krishna, and then you'll get that association of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, right? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, they'll be there with you, encouraging you, and you know, and you'll feel that ecstasy, right? So when you actually engage in preaching, like, for example, deity worship, definitely you feel enlivened by doing deity worship, you feel enlivened by coming to the temple, you feel enlivened by reading the Shastra. But if you start actually preaching, the whole thing comes to another level, right? Krishna consciousness comes to another level. It comes to that level of realization. It's just like, it's like night and day, right? But it's the sort of thing that has to be experienced. It's like switching on a light. You know, it becomes alive. Krishna consciousness comes alive. It becomes real. It's not something that you're reading in a book, it's something that you're actually living if you preach and take a little risk for Krishna. So, you know, that's very important to actually just get out there, maybe distribute some books, maybe distribute some prasadam, just go on Harinam, you know, and then you can meet. So like in each town or each village, there may be someone who's actually interested, right? It's not going to be like whole towns are going to follow you back to the temple or something like that. But you know, there might be 1 or 2 people there who will approach you and say, like I remember we did a program at the university. Was it Zomba? Was it Zomba, Lavanga? Doesn't sound right. Was it? Where was that, Lavanga? It was the university in Malawi?
The university programs, we did very many. We did very many universities.
Zomba was
Kikomba. No, Kikomba, sure. There is no university.
I'm pretty sure it was Zomba. Anyway, I remember after one of those programs at university, there were some young men coming up to us, approaching us after the festival, saying it like, how can I join your church? Right? How can I join your church? But, you know, we were just passing through during festivals. So we had to say, okay, you have to go now to Nairobi or something like that to find a temple, right? But yeah, they're interested just from one festival, just, okay, how can we join?
Oh, Prabhuji, I think it's the Polytechnic where we went at Mombasa, and that's where Joe joined, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So, yeah, this verse in the next chapter, not the next chapter, in chapter 14, right? This is very, very pertinent to this discussion that we're having about like the impersonal or the personal aspect of God, right? It's a very like a well-known verse of this 14:26. Krishna says, "Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevati sagunan samatitchaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpe." This verse is one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature, and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Right? So if you engage in full devotional service, obviously this is this is not an easy thing, but if you engage in full, means like pure bhakti, right? Full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances. So if you're constantly engaged, like, right, ananya, and that's what ananya bhakti, right? Ananya bhakti means constant, unending bhakti, right? Constantly engaged in service. Then you rise immediately above the modes, and Krishna says, come to the level of Brahman, right? So you become Brahman. And then Krishna goes on to say, the next verse, it says, Brahmano hi pratishtaham amritasyasya sasvacha sasvatasya dharmasya sukhasya kankasya. And I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness, right? So this is very profound, right? So like Prabhupada, in this verse, Prabhupada is discussing the impersonalist trying to realize the absolute truth. Krishna says, I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. So this is the point Prabhupada is saying. It's like Krishna is Brahman, right? So by worshipping Brahman in that way, you do come to realize the absolute truth. But if Krishna is Brahman, why waste going by a roundabout way? Just go direct to Krishna. Serve Krishna directly. And then you'll realize, you know, Brahman himself, Para Brahman, right? So we haven't finished the purport yet, have we?
No, Prabhuji.
We get to someone else can read the next, starting from a living entity is eternally an individual soul.
ISKCON Eldoret, can you read till the end now? It's one paragraph. George Prabhuji or anybody? Prabhuji, come near the mic, unmute and read.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
A living entity is eternally an individual soul, and if he wants to merge into the spiritual world, he may accomplish the realization of the eternal and knowledgeable aspects of his original nature, but the blissful portion is not realized. By the grace of some devotee, such a transcendentalist, highly learned in the process of Jnana Yoga, may come to the point of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service. At the time, long practice in impersonalism also become a source of trouble because he cannot give up the idea. Therefore, an embodied soul is always in difficulty. It can manifest both at the time of practice and at the time of realization. Every living soul is partially independent, and one should know for certain that manifested realization is against the nature of the spiritual blissful soul. One should not take up this process. For every individual living entity, the process of Krishna consciousness, which entails full engagement in devotional service, is the best way. If one wants to ignore this devotional service, there is the danger of turning to atheism. Thus, the process of centering attention to the unmanifested or unmanifested, the inconceivable, which is beyond the approach of the senses, as already expressed in this verse, should never be encouraged at any time, especially in this age. It is not advised by Lord Krishna.
Oh, thank you. So, you guys, ISKCON Eldoret, you're actually living in the there's a little temple there, or are you living in the temple, or are you visiting the temple? ISKCON Eldoret, you gentlemen there, are you living in the temple?
Yes.
Yes, we do live in the temple.
Just 4 of you?
Yes, we are living in the temple.
Yeah. So what do you do there? What all day long?
We are engaged in devotional service. And we are doing services in the temple.
So do you have a morning program and all that? Morning program, take prasadam.
Yeah.
Can I remember?
What do you do? What do you do in the daytime? Oh, Hare Krishna. Is that Manasiganto?
Yes.
Hi.
I couldn't recognize you on the photo because years have passed.
Yes.
Remember this old lady. Anyway,
You look the
ISKCON
same.
Eldoret is
You haven't changed, Mati.
almost, sorry,
You haven't changed.
I have. I'm an old lady now. I would, Path is there in ISKCON, and there's boys, I think 5 or 6 of them. They live full time in the temple, practicing devotees. And we set up this center, Path, almost 2 years now, going to be.
Right.
Path Prabhu. And very nice, sincere boys. Once the corona is over, you have to come and do festivals for us. There's no Harinam, no book distribution, nothing. We're just setting up centers, that's all. We've got another one in Judah. We have a big center in Nairobi, a Hare Krishna training center. Almost 30, 35 boys live there.
Oh, really?
So we've expanded by way of local preaching by opening centers. But we can't do Harinama book distribution, Prashadam, yes, but just food for life, not more.
Right. Okay.
All right, I'll let you continue since you were asking the Eldred boys, they're a bit shy, so I thought let me butt in. I came here and I go to Eldred and I get locked up. I come here and I get locked up. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Chai, nice to see you again. Yeah, so, but I mean, that's good. Like opening centers is very important, actually. You know, it's not one or the other, right? It's not, should we open centers or should we do festivals or Harinam or books or whatever? It has to be both things, right? So if people are interested, like I was saying, when those young men came up to us at the end of a festival and said, you know, we want to join your church. If there's no church to join, right? If there's no temple, then where will they go? Where will you send them? So there has to be a center. So it's important to have centers, places where people can actually come and learn about Krishna consciousness. If people are actually interested in, you know, learning the philosophy, learning the culture, it's also very important. So, you know, you need both things, right? So you have to have centers for people to come to, but you also have to have outreach so the people at the center are there. So the two things are, you know, equally important, right? You can go on Harinam, but if people want to come, where will they come? But if you have a center without going out on Harinam or doing books, then nobody knows your center is there. So, you know, it's very important to have, you know, both of these things combined, right? This is Sankirtan. So, you know, in the days of yore, in the past, the holy men would just stay in one place, like sit under a tree and do their bhajan, and whoever found them would benefit from their association, right? But, you know, in this day and age, it's very, very important for the devotees to get outside and preach, meet people, encourage them to come back to the temple. Then they can learn about the culture of Krishna consciousness, right? So, yeah, this is like a very essential thing. Books, Harinam, Prasadam distribution, that's the outreach, but then establishing centers. So, you know, Prabhupada's vision wasn't establishing centers just for the sake of a nice place to live or, you know, somewhere to sit down, but it was, as Prabhupada said, a base from which to go out and drop bombs on the population of the country, right? That was Prabhupada's thing. Go and drop bombs, transcendental bombs, right? The books were like bombs. Truth bombs, right? Drop bombs on the population. So you know, the temples are like bases. You have to go out, you have to leave the temple. Right? You get up in the morning, you chant your rounds, take prasadam, do all that stuff. But then, you know, between the morning program and the evening program, like that's what I called it, the famous ISKCON sandwich, right? So you have your morning program, deity worship, japa, all that stuff. But then in between, during the day, you have to go out. You have to go out of the temple, you have to meet people, you have to give out books, you have to go on Harinam. And then you can come back to the temple in the evening, take prasadam, have another kirtan, have a shower, get fresh, go to bed, that. Right, so this is very important to, you know, have these two things running side by side. You have to look after yourself with sadhana and, you know, reading, chanting, etc. But you also have to go out. And like I was saying, it brings life, it brings life. Prabhupada said, if one who has life can preach. And Chirunath was like the kind of manifestation of that. He was full of life. Although he didn't live very long. He left his body at 48. But during those years, like he joined ISKCON when he was very young. He was like 17 when he joined the temple. So during those years, he was extremely active, and he touched a lot of people all over the world. So yeah, we have to leave the comfort of our temples or our homes, and we have to go out. We have to go out on Harinam. We have to go out on book distribution. We have to go out and distribute prasadam, because that's where the life is, right? We'll feel alive, and then other people, they'll see the life in us. They'll recognize that we are alive. They'll recognize that we are different from an ordinary person in the street, right? When the more devotees are engaged in service, like preaching service, the more kind of enlivened they are, and the more alive they feel. And people can, when they meet devotees, they're able to recognize that. They'll see, oh, who are these people? They're different, and not just because maybe you dress in a different way, but there's a kind of an aura around devotees, right? Especially devotees who are engaged in like Sankirtan. There's an aura about them. People can feel it. And when people come in contact with a devotee who's really preaching, like who's really connected, let's say, people can feel it, and they feel inspired to say, well, that person has something, right? You must do. I'm sure you will experience that. So you'll say, well, there's something about you. What is that? And then that becomes like a catalyst, to preach them. You say, oh, well, even like it may be at work, right? Like maybe you have a job, you have things to do, you have to maintain your family, right? But when you meet people even at work, and people can see that even if they don't really know you, they just see that there's something about this person. What is it? And then finally they sort of pluck up the courage to come and talk to you, right? And they say, oh, what is it about you? Talk about you. You seem to be very peaceful, or you seem to be maybe something spiritual about you. And then you can have a conversation, right? So, oh, well, I practice this Maha Mantra chanting, japa meditation. Right? So there's always opportunities for preaching. And then maybe you give them a book. Maybe like to attempt that. So it's all very nice, all very positive for devotees engaged in the Sankirtan mission. Like I'm sure you're aware, I don't know how much you follow the news, but there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world at the moment. Not just the old coronavirus, which we're all struggling with, but I don't know, seems to be like crazy weather going on at the moment all over the world, floods, like across Europe, there was like massive flooding, now it's in China. China seems to be underwater, I don't know. It's, it's kind of a crazy time. So during crazy times in the world, then people are more inclined to look for the truth, or to look for answers, let's say. People are looking for answers. So, if you have answers, then it's the time to offer them. So if you have something to offer to people, it's like an explanation. Why is the world going crazy? Why is it that, half the world's on fire, half the world's underwater? What's going on? Why lockdowns? Why all this kind of chaos? Right? So if you have some kind of answer, then, sincere people, they start questioning life when bad things happen. So like devotees, it's very important the devotees are out there offering answers, offering Krishna. Yeah. So you're doing that. So I wish you all well. And thank you for your time. And Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for your time. Really enjoyed this session. We have Madhrupa Mataji in this group as well, and she says that she has met Tribhuvan Nath Prabhuji and seen him in a drama at Kisumu. So,
really?
Old devotees as well. Madhrupa Prabhuji, Madhrupa Mataji, would you like to say something? Okay. Fine. I'll hand over to Path Prabhuji now, who will close the session. Hare Krishna, Path Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Is my audio is proper, Mataji? Because
Yes. We can hear very well.
Okay, good. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for your inspiration. How is supposed to be engage more and more people? How is supposed to be do Harinam out of town so that we can spread like a Bhakti Vinod's word and also Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's word, Prithvi Nagaradigram. So that is our, we are supposed to trying that one, Prabhuji. Before also we distribute many books throughout Kenya, even in Nairobi, in Kisumu, also in Eldoret, in all the national library, all the universities, all the schools, also in the different temple and church we distributed. Also we are doing the Food for Life program continuously. And also the Harinam also we are doing in a different town. We are going there and doing the programs. But now it is stopped due to this pandemic. Yes. But still we are going the preaching program and the book Food for Life. But we hope if everything is okay, then we can start the Harinam. It is more attractive and we can join more, and also devotee will feel pleased too much and God will bless us. Yes, Prabhuji, we'll take your instruction or inspiration or blessing so that we can do that one. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, your Prabhuji time. Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Like Mataji also, yes, Prabhu Mansinga Mataji also told, this center is not too long. It is 2.5 years only. So, but it is very good progress. It's a good progress, a good potential in this. Yes. Maybe Krishna's mercy.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll see what will happen. Maybe more people will come, and this is the maybe in East Africa it will be a remarkable and it's a good center for the preaching program. Hare Krishna.
I really hope that one thing. I don't know how it is there now, but when we were there was some let's say some friction between the Indian devotees and the African devotees.
Yes, sir. I can.
So you need to, this is one thing you have to, I don't know how it is there now, maybe it's better, but it's something that you have to work on in order to improve, like to develop that yatra. You have to have like a loving, friendship and, cooperation between the Indian devotees and the African devotees.
Yes.
Because if there's negative between, then it won't work, it won't spread, right? It has to be together, right? It has to be togetherness. It's very important.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Actually, yeah.
No, that's it. I've said my piece.
Prabhuji, let's chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in glorification of Prabhuji. Prabhuji.
Yes, we can. Please unmute to every devotee and chant Hare Krishna Mantra for a glorification of His Grace Gopa Kumar Prabhuji. Yes, can you hear me?
Hare
Krishna, Hare Bol. Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare. Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Grace Gopa Kumar Prabhu ki jai.
I'm your servant. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for your time.
So what do we do now? Everyone, is it bedtime?
Everybody leaves, it's bedtime in Eldoret, but I will go on. I'm in London, Prabhuji. So
you're in London.
I'm not enjoying this heat. Want to go back home, but I'm locked down here. So